What's up, guys? All right, for today's video, I'm gonna go over something that I think is really important and has helped me a ton in becoming a profitable trader, and it's developing your own system. How to go about it, more importantly, why, and then the one piece that I would recommend to anyone, no matter what type of system, what type of strategy they use, and that is flow. But before that, want to say hope you guys had a good Christmas, and the rest of the holiday season is good. When we're developing a system, the main goals of this system, right, are to create consistency, the ability to win trades time in and time out, no matter the market condition. Secondly, to take emotions out. Emotions are what end up killing a lot of people's trading career. The first part, I just want to go over kind of how to go about building a system, and use my system and how I came about it as an example to kind of further explain some things. So the first thing we're going to take into account when building a system is our personality. I think this is really often overlooked, and something that we don't really think about when going about making a system, and in order to build this consistency that we strive. For me personally, I overthink a lot of things. So that was something that I really took into account. And because of that, I built a system around simplicity. What I mean by simplicity, right, is I only use two indicators, and those are VWAP and VPA. Other than that, I just use key levels and flow in making my watch list, executing my plays, and all my trading is just based really off these simple things, so I don't have to overthink. And that's how I use, my personality to relate it back into my trading. And within that, I have risk management built in, some things that I follow with that. Uh, but that helps me, to control emotions, which is a big thing that we talk about. I like the quick moves, and I like playing both sides. I also like that large caps we can play. They respect support and resistance a lot better than small caps do. So that's something, when it comes into personality in my system, is I wanted to be the best I could possibly be at trading large cap options. So that kind of, was the basis of, or the start of my system was, what am I going to trade, and what are some, like, my personality traits that I need to take out in order to be able to repeatedly win. Once we go about, thinking about a personality, everyone's personality is going to be different. So therefore, our systems are all going to be a little bit different. They might have the same basic themes, stuff like that, but it's really important to individualize our own system because we are different. We have the different personalities. What may work for someone might not work for you, and vice versa. So being able to individualize this, build our own, in turn leads to this self-sufficiency that we strive for, and the ability to trade in any kind of market by taking those emotions out, playing both sides, and then learning. Secondly, when it comes to building our system, and how to go about it, I'll look back at areas where I really struggled, and was losing money, and how I can mitigate these losses, to maximize returns. So one big thing when I first started out trading was there's way too much information out there. On social media we see all these watch lists, with tons of different plays, right? That's cool, it's helpful, but how do we narrow down this information, and how do we go about playing our plays, making money and repeating this is simply just keeping it simple. And that's one thing that developing your own system goes with. And how I went about that was using flow, right? I'll get into that a little bit more, why I think flow is so important and using it. But the main point being with flow is just helps minimize the possible plays and helps us magnify, and go about what play we want to trade. My college coach said to us our very first day of my junior year of college, and it was keep it simple, stupid. I think that's something big for me, right? I see it every morning. Um, and something with me is I try to make things way too complicated. When in turn, trading is really, really quite simple once we understand the mental side. And once we do build this system that helps us continually win, um, staying disciplined to the system, once we develop it, fine tune it, and realize it works, can really help us as traders, and not overcomplicate the really simple thing, which is trading based off key levels, support and resistance. People use EMAs, all sorts of different things, favored retracements. That may work for them, but for me, that's way too many things for my brain to comprehend in the short amount of time it takes for me to push, take a call or take a put. Thing that anyone can see is price action. And we can learn how to trade price action. That's why key levels are so important to me, and have been one of those three, pillars of my system when I went about building it. And then VPA can also help because, when we see these bigger nodes here, we know it's going to move slower. But if we have a big gap down to here, we know it's going to move pretty fast through these nodes down to here, before we have a stop. So that can help us again with, just the confidence in trade. And that gets me in perfectly to another thing, when we go about building our system. And an area that I really struggled with was the mental side. I struggled, right away. I struggled with chasing plays further down, getting invested in a stock that, probably was going down. I didn't read the price action right, stuff like that. So when I developed my system, I wanted a system that was almost solely technical. Why? Because it would take away the emotions, of trading in order to help me become more consistent with my trades. Next part for me that I really noticed I struggled with was entries. So how I went about my system and developed some rules on how to trade that would be, first, I only traded the retests, right? So say that I have a call trigger here above 469.75. I wouldn't enter this trade until this retest here. To this day, I still don't play any tickers from the first 15, 30 minutes of the ring, right? Why? Because the premiums are often spread out, and my entry is usually not as good. Wait for a retest and then play with the better entry point. So I'll take that, it helps with my risk to reward, and the mental side. When going about mental side, the fourth part that really is the big envelope of all my system is risk management. And I think that should be a part of anyone's system, right? Because it does help to control the mental side. I have a video more about my strategy behind the mental side, such as stop loss and scaling and such, but incorporating those in and pre-planning the trade is something that has really helped me. When we go about building this system, in the end, it's just going to be more impactful and help you more if you incorporate your own personality into this system. Realize what you do well, and then use the things you don't do well to go back and fine tune the system and make yourself better, right? So that's something that I really think is important. But the very most important thing to me when building a system would be to look at your personality. What's your personality? And then build around that, because you know yourself better than anyone, right? So that's something that's really going to help. And then once we start to build this system, we're going to realize, there's some things that we struggle with, or maybe you already realize that. So I'm going to build my system in order to minimize these things I struggle with. So we've gone over the how, but the more important part is, why the hell should we build our own system? And why is it something that I preach so much on? And a big reason is it gives us the ability to be self-sufficient. No matter if we make our own watch list and trade those plays, that's really rewarding, right? But we also instill this confidence in following our system and knowing how we're going to play the play and knowing what to do, that we don't need our hands held when trading. And that's something in terms of long-term sustainability that's super important as a trader. Being able to find your own plays, execute your own plays. You don't need someone holding your hand. And that's something that I think through me sharing some of the things that I went through and I've learned, that can really help to take down the curve. The biggest thing on the why we should build our own system is to take the emotions out, right? 10% of traders succeed. That means 90% of traders fail. when we look at it, I guarantee if we were to ask people, why did you fail? What was the hardest part? It's going to be the mental side. Whether we, directly relate it to mentality, stuff like that, all of it's going to go back to the mental side of trading. So when building our systems, we want to mitigate this, take out as much emotion as we possibly can, because in the end, that's going to be what helps us win trades more often than not. For the next part of the video, this is the part that I think any system, no matter who you are, what your system is, you can take in and can help your system in a very, very, very good way. And that is the use of flow. I use unusual whales, but the big thing here is, why and how can I incorporate into my system to benefit me. So the first thing is, when I started my system, I started with just, the VPA and key levels. And I noticed, that's cool, but there was still way too much information to process. How do I go about breaking down my watch list more in order to get these big plays, these good plays on both sides, right? And that was, the simple answer is flow. What flow does, it helps us narrow down these possible plays to put on our watch list, because in order to day trade, we need volume, right? And using this hot chains and tickers thing tab right here, we can see the most actives on the day, right? And this helps us a lot. Secondly, it can also show us these big OTMs that we look for in order to act as a possible magnet in the next trading day. For example, AFRM is one on my watch list for today, and the reason it's on there is simply because of this 1231 110 call is the third highest up on its most active chains for the day, right? It finished the day at 101, so that's a 9-point move in a week. So you narrow my list down. That's the sole reason why it's on here. Another one's on my list is Fubo. Fubo is another reason why it's on my list, is simply this call right here, a 121.21 call. Fubo's been beaten down, and it's currently trading at 1770. So that's 3 weeks for about a $4 move, and that's also a reason why it's on my watch list for today. In the end, it's about developing a system that works for you. And once you find the system, you start to learn the system and follow the system, create that discipline in the system, we can start to fine tune it and then adapt it to certain market conditions. But the main core values are the same, right? So this system continues to grow, continues to evolve, and the sky's really the limit when it comes to our trading ability and ability to find plays. And I talked about it earlier that 90% of traders fail. That means, only 10% of traders succeed. And I guarantee when you go and look, of those 10%, almost 99.9% of them have a system that they have built up and continue to follow to this day. It may have changed here and there. That's okay. But they continue to follow this, and it's a big reason why they are successful and why they are consistent. We're trying to build that consistency and that ability to trade in both market types in order to be the best trader we can be and to be profitable. That's the end goal of any trader. No one sets out to lose money, right?